Hello everyone. In this lecture we are going to discuss about the process of notice inviting tender and the award of contract based on these tenders. So a notice inviting tender is a public notice inviting interested parties to submit the cost for execution of the work. So various parties, companies, contractors will submit their estimated cost for the given work, and based on which we'll decide to whom we are going to assign the work or give the work order. Now, the publicity of this kind of a document may be at the local level, which is maybe in your own website or in the local advertisement platform. Then it may be at the state level, national level, or at the global level, which is international level. Generally, for smaller projects, we stay satisfied with local tendering, but for large scale and large high value projects, we may go for national or global tenders where we ask companies or contractors all around the world or nation to submit their own bids. Now, there is a similar document which is also called notice inviting quotation, but a quotation is different from a tender because it is asked for smaller items rather than big projects, and smaller and simpler items. It may not always be a cheap item, it may have very high, maybe a high value item, but if it is a single machine or uh, single setup of some kind, then it may be a quotation rather than a tender. And another difference is that it may not always be publicly advertised, because sometimes you may simply contact three or four vendors that you know who can supply that item that you need, and you may ask for quotations from them. However, in case of a tender, it needs to be published publicly so that anybody can get the notice and submit their own bids. If you go to the website of the university, then you can see the notice inviting tenders. There are various tenders. I've taken the example of this civil engineering tender. So let's have a look at this. It says it has the official head, and then it says notice inviting tender. Then the tender number is there, which says TU for Tezpur University. EC means engineering cell. Civil is the civil engineering department of the engineering cell, which is different from the academic department. They're completely different entities. Then 92 may be some kind of book number, and 2021 is the academic, the financial year, and this is the serial number of the document, and this is the date. So these kind of formalities are always to be there. They cannot be skipped. Then seal tenders from reputed contractors are invited. Seal means you cannot simply submit an open document, and it has to be confidential, and it has to be opened only at a particular place at a particular time. In single bid system, we'll discuss what single bid system is. If there is a single bid, that means there are multiple bids. That's why this word single is focused here. For and on behalf of Tezpur University, NOPAM, and so on, for the work mentioned below, the work is that replacement of damaged GI roofing sheet. That means some roofs are maybe damaged, and at the academic building number 1, 2, and 3 at Tezpur University campus, and so on. So this is the description of the work, and the approximate value of the work is this much according to the client's estimate. That means the engineering cell's estimate says that this will be approximately the value of the work, cost of the work. Then there is something called earnest money deposit that the tenderer or the bidder has to submit at the time of submission of the tender. And this is approximately 2% of the total project value, total cost of the project, which is generally the case for almost all projects. It varies around 2% to 2 to 2.5% maybe. Then date of issue of tender document is from 3rd August to 18th August, and last date is 2:30 p.m. of 18th August. So the time is also mentioned. You cannot go and submit at in the middle of the night. And then you see the date and time of opening of tender. If you note, the date is the same as the last date and the time is only half an hour after the final time of submission. Now, why is this uh, only half an hour later? That's just to avoid any kind of mishappenings or kind of any kind of modifications of the tenders based on knowledge that people should not have, for example. And then there is the cost of tender document, which is generally not refundable, but this earnest money deposit is refundable. And the time of completion of the work is also mentioned. That means you cannot take more than 21 days to replace this kind of roofing sheets. So that is already estimated that this is a reasonable time, and the contractor, whoever is awarded this job, will have to comply with these requirements. Now there is a second part to this document. In the second half, it says the qualifying criteria for issue of tender document. So not anybody can come in and get the tender documents. So they have to be registered with government or semi-government departments or government autonomous bodies. So they have to be registered contractors, then must have experience of having successfully completed similar construction work. Similar means at least they should have some experience in house construction and housings during the last 7 years in any government or semi-government department, government, autonomous bodies, and so on. Supported by copies of work order. Work order means the document which is given to a contractor saying that now he is invited to carry out or execute the work. And finally, the completion certificate. Completion certificate means once somebody is assigned a work, he has to complete the work, and after completion of the work, the client will give them a certificate, and the tenderers or the bidders who are going to come to this contract, this project, they will have to produce this kind of documents showing that they have already done this kind of works with government or semi-government organizations. Why do we do this? Just it is done so that we don't have to spend a lot of time and effort just to do some kind of background check of the bidders, whether they're competent, whether they have good records. So these kind of documents will be acting as proof of that those credentials. Now having PAN, that is PAN, personal account number, and GST registration, that is quite self explanatory. Then they must be accompanied with self-attested copies of the qualifying documents and so on. So this is the general formalities, to whom it has to be submitted, and the money, that is earnest money deposit, and the tender fee will have to be deposited in demand draft, and these kind of other modes of payments are also made known. The tender fee is non-refundable, but the earnest money deposit is generally refundable. In case of digital mode of payment, receipt of payment is to be submitted. So nowadays digital payment is also accepted. Now the final clause is the acceptance of the tender will rest with the authority of the Tezpur University NOPAM, who does not bind itself to accept the lowest tender or reserves to itself the right to reject any or all of the tenders received. And this is done to stay on the safe side, because sometimes, although the documents may be available with the bidders, but we may know that some bidder has some bad track record, although they have the documents, or they do not have the required expertise in carrying out certain kind of work, or we are not satisfied with any of the bidders. In that case, we may ask for a fresh tender, and so on. So those kind of rights are reserved with the client in many cases. Then we'll discuss some of the terms that are used in these tender documents or notices. So bidder. A bidder is a party or individual A party may be individual or company who submits a bid or tender expressing interest to execute the work for a given amount of money. Then the contractor is the party who is awarded the contract to carry out the work. That means before award of the contract, they are all bidders. Only after selection of one party, that one party will be called the contractor for that project. However, outside this situation, anyone who is qualified for this kind of work, they call themselves contractors as their occupation. But in context of this project, the party who is awarded the contract will only be called the contractor. The rest are only bidders before that. Then earnest money deposit. It is the amount to be paid by a bidder as an expression of earnestness or seriousness regarding the execution of the work. So let's discuss it in detail. So it is required to ensure seriousness of the bidder. Then if a bidder is unsuccessful, that means somebody has quoted less than him or somebody has got the contract for some reason and he or she did not get this contract, then that money will be refunded. Also, the person or the bidder or the contractor who gets the contract, who is awarded the contract, that contractor is also refunded this amount. However, generally it is not directly refunded because that involves again an unnecessary transaction, because once the bidder will transfer the money, then the client will transfer the money back to the bidder. So these are unnecessary transactions. So what is generally done is it is adjusted in the security deposit which the contractor has to pay to the client, and from that this earnest money deposit is deducted. Because suppose the contractor has to deposit an amount of 10,000 as security deposit for the project, but he has already paid 2,000 as earnest money deposit, and therefore now he only has to pay 8,000 instead of 10,000. So that kind of adjustment is made. Now it may be forfeited. That means we do not refund this earnest money back to the bidder if the bidder withdraws after opening of the bid. That means after we open all the envelopes, then if a bidder uh, withdraws from the bid that I'm not interested, then the earnest money deposit will be or may be forfeited and not refunded to the bidder. Why is that provision there? Let's say, for example, why would a bidder withdraw from a bid after opening of the envelopes or the tender documents? It may be a case where a bidder realizes that all the other bidders who have not uh, who have only quoted a significantly higher amount and therefore they did not get the contract, but this bidder gets the contract by quoting a significantly lower amount. So in that case, that bidder may feel that I could have quoted slightly higher amount. All the other bidders have supposed quoted 1 lakh rupees for this work, but I have quoted only 60,000 rupees. But I could have quoted 80 or 90,000 rupees. In that case also I would have won this contract or been awarded this contract. So in that case he may feel that he has made a wrong decision in the estimate and may want to withdraw that bid. So in that case the earnest money deposit is forfeited, so that this kind of problems are avoided. Sometimes even after some one bidder is given the contract, for some reason or another they may want to back out or withdraw from this contract, may not want to sign this contract, and in that case also the earnest money deposit is forfeited. Now let's discuss this term security deposit. So a security deposit is generally about 5 to 10% of the contract value, and it is deposited by the contractor, which is the successful bidder, as a guarantee of quality of work as deduction from running account bills. Now, that means if the project does not see any kind of defect, then this money will be paid back to the contractor. But if there is some defect, then the contractor either has to repair this defect, or if the contractor doesn't refuses to repair this defect, the client can use this money that the contractor has deposited to repair those defects using some other means. So the contractor is liable to repair or rectify any kind of defects within the defect liability period, and generally this amount 5 to 10% of the contract value is actually high, large amount. If it's a contract of about value of about 1 crore, then 5 to 10% will be 5 to 10 lakhs. So generally it is not asked to pay directly, but it is deducted from the amount to be paid to the contractor. That means suppose some amount of work has been done in first 2 or 3 months, and based on that amount of work we are going to pay the contractor the bill. So from that bill itself, this amount will be deducted. Many a times, because this is a big amount and the first few bills will not even amount to this 5 to 10% of the total contract value. Maybe the first bill only amounts to about, suppose, 2 lakh rupees, and 5% of 1 crore of total value is already 5 lakhs rupees. So you don't even have enough bill amount from which you can deduct this security deposit. So this security deposit that we are going to deduct from the payment to be made to the contractor, we even split this into 4 or 5 installments. So from the first 4 or 5 bills, we are not going to pay you the full bill. We are going to deduct some small amount part by part, so that at the end we have the security deposit with us, with the client. Now, this defect liability period is a period for which the contractor will be liable for any kind of repair, and it depends on the type of project and also the scale of the project. So it may be 1 year, it may be 5 year, it may also be 20 years. So that depends on the type of project. And also the scope of this defect liability period may differ, may vary from different items of work within a single project. For example, when you buy a smartphone, the accessories like chargers, headphones are given a warranty of only 6 months, while the smartphone itself gets a warranty of 1 year. Similarly, in a building project, some elements such as beams and columns and slab should not have any kind of cracks, structural failure. So for that, the defect liability period will be more. But for some things like panes and glass windows and so on, so for those kind of items, the defect liability period may be less. Now, we also saw the term single bit system. So if there is single bit, so there is also a 2-bit system. So in a single bit system, documents related to eligibility criteria, that is their financial details, then the eligibility criteria which says the previous credentials, that they have done this and this kind of work with this kind of organizations in the past. So those kind of details and certificates are to be submitted along with the financial bit, where they quote the price for this project in the same envelope. In 2-bit systems, those eligibility criteria documents are submitted separately from the financial bid, and generally what is done is the client, while opening the tender documents for all the bidders, they open the eligibility criteria documents first, and only when a bidder is qualifying based on eligibility criteria, then only his or her financial bid is opened. Otherwise, if somebody does not qualify, the financial bid may not even be opened. There is also a 3-bit system or 3 envelope system, where First envelope will contain all the eligibility documents. Then the second envelope may contain some technical details. It is generally done for projects where the technical specifications are not yet finalized by the client and the client is waiting for the contractor to offer a solution. So in that case, after you check the all the eligibility documents criteria, then those who qualify, you ask those bidders and they will offer different kinds of technical solutions. So in that case, those technical solutions are also evaluated based on their technical merit and also the economy. So out of suppose 5 qualified bidders, they have offered 5 different solutions and you liked only 3 of those solutions. So those 3 bidders will be selected and they will be asked to submit their financial bids. They may have submitted their financial bids already, but if you have made some kind of technical some changes in the specifications of the project based on their advice and suggestions, that means of the bidders, then you may also ask them to even modify the financial bids that they have already submitted or are going to submit, because the technical specifications have now changed. So at the end, the bidder with the most economical offer or the most suitable offer, or in general, to be a little bit vague, the best offer is awarded the contract. Now what constitutes best is up to some discussion. It may be the most economical, or it may be the best technical solution, and so on, or it may be maybe a combination of both better technical solution and better economy. So now let's dig a little bit deeper into the process of tender evaluation. So the first criteria, the simplest criteria, is price alone. That means where the lowest bidder, whoever he or she is, will be given the contract. Generally, and the most common is the second one, eligibility and price. The bidders are selected based on technical criteria, whether they qualify based on their previous credentials and their financial documents, and if they qualify, then their financial bids are opened and whoever quotes the lowest is given the contract. Sometimes the eligibility and technical score and price are combined. That means those who are eligible are also given some kind of technical score based on their technical superiority or technical merit. It may be based on, it may this technical score may be given based on some kind of technical solution that they offer, or maybe based on their credentials. Somebody who has done lots of high value projects, high tech projects, suppose, they will be given a better score than somebody who is inexperienced. And also it may be based on the solutions they offer to the specific problem of this project. So based on that also they may be given some technical score. And ultimately the technical score and the price are combined to get a combined score to award the contract to the most suitable bidder. Now the most simple example is where we have 7 bidders, A, B, C, D, E, F and G. They have offered this kind of financial bids. These figures may be in thousands, that is 250,000, or it may be lakhs and so on. So in this case, bidder E has quoted the lowest, 215,000 rupees, and therefore E will be given the contract. The second example is when we have checked the technical criteria or eligibility. We have seen that these 3 bidders do not qualify, and therefore we are not going to consider their financial bid. Sometimes we do not even open their financial bid, so we don't even know these values, and we'll only evaluate based on the rest of the bidders. So out of these bidders, 220 is the lowest, therefore bidder C will get the contract. Then comes where we also give some weightage to the technical score. That means based on some methodology that we have devised, we have given them these scores. So A gets 45, 65. We have decided that those who have scored below 60 will be disqualified. So therefore, these A, E and F will be disqualified, and the competition will be only among B, C, D and G. Sometimes what we may do is, we'll see that all these have qualified, and now we are only going to consider their financial bids, and this is only used as a qualifying criteria and will not be used in the final evaluation. But sometimes we also may want to give weightage to these values along with these financial bids. So in that case, we have to devise some kind of combined score. So that poses a problem, because the financial bid is in terms of money, and here lower is better. That means whoever is quoting the lowest price has a better chance of getting the contract. However, in case of technical score, who gets the higher score is has the better chance of getting the contract. So now we need to convert both of them into a unified scoring system. So for that, we have this kind of a formula. It's not always used, or you may come up with a different formula as well, but this is the main principle. For example, financial score, let's say we are going to score it out of 100. This 100 will be awarded to whoever has quoted the minimum price. So that person will, or that bidder will will automatically get a score of 100. Anybody who has scored who has quoted higher will be getting a score less than 100, and the higher the amount, the lower will be the score. And how can we ensure that? By subtracting this amount, which is R minus R min, where R is the bid value of a contractor, suppose A, while contractor C has the lowest bid and therefore has already scored 100. Now A has quoted some higher amount than C, so whatever is the difference, that we are going to convert into percentage by dividing it with R minimum, or the price quoted by C, and multiplying by 100. That's how we convert it into percentage, and we're going to subtract that amount from the maximum possible score, 100. So if A has quoted a higher amount, then a bigger number will be deducted from A, from 100. If A has quoted only a slightly greater amount than C, then a small score will be deducted from 100. So that way the financial score is calculated, and after that we add the financial score with the technical score using this kind of a formula, where X and Y are the weightages that we give to technical score and the financial score. Sometimes we may decide that, the client may decide that the technical part is more important than the economy. So in that case, we will give more weightage to this technical score. So in that case, X may be 80% and Y may be only 20%. That is 0.8 and 0.2. If we say that both are equally important, then we may give them equal weightage, 50 or 50, that is 0.5 and 0.5. If we say that the technical part is fine, all these bidders are just going to be good enough, we are more focused on the economy, we want to save money, that is more important. So in that case, we'll give Y a bigger value, suppose 70 or 80%, which is in decimal 0.7 or 0.8, and whatever is remaining out of 1, that is 0.2 or 0.3, will be assigned to X. So in this case, we'll look at the example again. Here These are the disqualified bidders, so we are not going to consider these values. We may not even know these values. Now we are going to find out the financial scores based on the formula, and we found that C, who has quoted the lowest, is getting automatically 100 score. Then 230 is quoted by B, which is only slightly higher than 220, that is only 10 units higher. Therefore, B is getting a score of 95. Now D has quoted even more, 235, and therefore D is getting a lower score. And G is getting quoting even higher price, therefore G will get even lower score. So now in this case we have decided that the technical score will be given 30% weightage and the financial score will be given 70% weightage. So in this case we'll simply add 0.3 times the technical score plus 0.7 times the financial score, making it 1, and we find that the final scores are these. So out of this, whoever scores the highest will get the contract. In this case it is 92.5 scored by C. So here you see C has quoted the lowest price, and also technically also they have scored higher, so they have this better chance of, so therefore they got the contract. If somebody, suppose D, scores 90 in the technical round, then you may calculate what will be the modified score and evaluate based on that. So that's how we evaluate different contracts. There is one more thing that I want to include, that suppose you have estimated a value, contract value of a certain amount X, but all the bidders have quoted prices significantly above or significantly below your estimated cost. So in that case, it may happen that we may even ask for a fresh tender. Suppose you have estimated your cost will be 1 lakh, but all the contractors, all the bidders have quoted below 60,000. That means that it is possible that your estimate was wrong, or you have taken some uh, costs based on wrong data, and you may have to go for a fresh estimate. Or maybe all the bidders are also wrong based on because they may not exactly know all the technical details and difficulties based on which you have estimated this cost. So you may ask for a fresh tender. The same may happen if it is significantly higher. That means all the bidders have supposed quoted a price above 1.5 lakhs, for which you have estimated only 1 lakh. So in that case also they may be, and the entire process may be cancelled. And sometimes if only one bidder crosses those kind of tolerance values, plus or minus 5% or 10% or 20%, so in that case those bidders may also be disqualified, and only those who are quoting within that allowable range, either above or below, will be considered for evaluation. So this is in a nutshell how a contract is awarded based on tendering process. I hope you understand the basic concept of this process. In the next lecture, we'll discuss about the different types of contracts. Thank you.